Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello everyone, welcome to your latest Wolves Fancast match review. I'm your host Little Dan. On tonight's show I've got with me Greg, Tom and Ali, who I'm going to come to first. I think it was after the... What game was it? After the Blackburn game, Ali, I said quite loud on your speakers to remind your missus that we got through to the next round of the Cup and they didn't, but I think you've got to keep your head down a little bit today in your household after the defeat to your missus Liverpool.
Yeah, it's been a tough day. A lot of division in our household today. Just about back on speaking terms, but it was a quiet journey home. It wasn't a quiet journey home at all. There was a lot of debating around some of the decisions that went on in the game, which I'm sure we'll all talk about. But after about an hour, we're back in the same room again, so it's all okay.
That's it. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on the Wolves Fancast show in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, FC Quiz app, and the Boston Coffee Company. Thanks to everyone who's commenting already. Please let us know your thoughts, because based on wherever you look today, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, your various WhatsApp groups, everyone's got their own opinion, so let us know what you thought on the result today, the performance. I think 2-1 before the game I probably would have begrudgingly taken, with the fact that Liverpool, top of the league, they've gone back to 7 points at the top today. We've not got a great record at Anfield. I think it's now we've won one in the last 17 now, I think it is. So it was always going to be an uphill task, wasn't it, Greg? But when the teams came out at sort of quarter to one today, when it was Rodrigo Gomez in the squad was one of the big things for me of the big noticeable things. I thought he would have been a really good asset today, coming up against possibly Trent Alexander-Arnold or Andy Robertson. But was you surprised to see Sarabia or Guedes? What was your thoughts on the lineup today?
Yeah, I mean those were the two. I think Bellegarde got a bit of a tough call against him, but I think we talked about that on a previous show that that the reality is Gomez has been one of our strongest players this season, and it's going to be hard to drop. I just feel that Sarabia doesn't suit us playing away, I think, is the conclusion I've had today. I wasn't too worried about him starting, given his performance against Villa, which was his best performance this season, and so he probably deserved the opportunity to continue. But I just think, unfortunately, away from home, where we need to counter-attack with pace, he doesn't offer that option. He the amount of times the ball comes out to him, and he either checks back or he slows down, because he can't beat a man for pace, unfortunately. So I think that's a big issue for us, particularly away from home. I can see why he was kept into the team, but I just think unfortunately, it just didn't play out for us, and that was kind of shown as we moved towards the second half and the subs that were there.
What did you make to the lineup, Tom? We've mentioned numerous years now since Pablo Sarabia joined Wolves, the calibre of player is, what he brings to this side. But like Greg mentioned there, in games when you're going to be sort of, for the majority of the game, 9, 10, 11 behind the ball, you need that bit of pace on the counter-attack. And the games that we've sort of suffered in recently, the games are at home to Arsenal, and today we've missed that Pedro Neto sort of wild card pace on the counter-attack, haven't we? Pedro Neto isn't pulling up trees, as you saw the other night against Brighton, but he gave us that alternative and that sort of, like I just said, that wild card.
Yeah, it's hard to be critical, really, because I agree with Greg. It probably is the team I'd have picked. Yeah, Bellegarde can count himself unlucky, but when he's been put in that position, he's definitely underperformed, and we can clearly see now that's not his role anymore. He needs to be in the centre. But yes, Sarabia did have a good game against Villa, but He offers absolutely nothing in these types of games. If we'd have played with 10 men, it probably wouldn't have been much different, to be honest, in that first half, unfortunately. I just think physically he's not capable of playing those sort of high-octane games where you can't make a tackle. So if you're sitting in, he doesn't offer anything that way, and he's got no pace going forward. So, if you're against like a Southampton at home where you've got to unlock a bit of a tricky defence, then maybe. But I think beyond that, he's got to be that type of player and nothing else, because he offers absolutely nothing. We saw it against Chelsea, I think it was, and it was a very, very similar performance with that. And there was absolutely no surprise that he got hooked at half time, because I think everyone could have seen that coming.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't want to keep driving on like I've got some sort of narrative against Sarabia. I know technically he's a really good player, but like you mentioned there, if he's not bringing physicality, he can't bring any pace. What can he bring to a Wolves team that is going to be set up to counter-attack against a team like Liverpool? I mean, did he even take a set piece today? That's why I was pondering for a quick second. I couldn't remember him taking one set piece. I think Cunha took two. Then 8 Nori may have taken 1 or 2. But like I say, what does he bring to this team if he's not bringing anything to do with pace, physicality? And he is probably one of our most creative players from open play or sort of set pieces. So it's surprising for me how Vita's persevered with him in the last sort of couple of games, because even against Blackburn, Ali didn't really justify starting again today from what he did against Blackburn.
Yeah, he missed a couple of chances, didn't he, against Blackburn? I think he set up a couple, and he had that chance, didn't he, Sarabia, that he put over the bar. I think, like Greg and Tom have said, I was half expecting him to get picked, and as you say, I can't be too critical of Vitor, because I think that's probably the lineup I would have gone with. I think Sarabia and Bellegarde was a decision there to be made of does he play a midfield 3? Does he bring Munetsi in? Does he, how does he do that? Munetsi, sorry, how does he bring him in? So I think there was a decision there, but I think the only logic to playing Sarabia in games like that is that you're hoping that if he can pick the ball up in a pocket of space, then he can release the likes of Guedes and Cunha running off him. But I think that worked better when you've got maybe Neto's pace. I think with Cunha and Guedes, it just didn't work today. And when he has these games where he, like the Chelsea game that Tom said, when he's not involved in the game and he's getting knocked off the ball and we're not, and he's giving it away. And I said he looks anonymous. It's just so frustrating. And I said it wasn't a surprise when he came off at half time. So I think it was, again, I'm not going to be overly critical because I think it's probably what I would have gone with, but I likewise wasn't sort of when he didn't appear for the second half, I wasn't exactly surprised. And I thought it made sense to give Bellegarde a go because Sarabia hadn't done enough to justify his selection.
Yeah, I think the substitutions at half-time had to be done to sort of change the dynamic of the game because, as Vitor Pereira said today in his post-match press conference, Greg, is that we showed Liverpool too much respect in that first half. The coordinated pressing wasn't anywhere near as assured as it's looked in recent weeks. And Liverpool's first goal came from us being sloppy in their final third. And like you've seen over the last few years that when Liverpool do have the turnover and the pace that they've got with players like Diaz, Jota, I even mentioned Salah first off there, you are going to get punished. And it's typical the way that things go in football. And I'm sort of realising it firsthand at the moment that teams get the look at the rub of the green when they're at the top, and us being in a relegation zone, nothing seems to be going for us at the moment. You look at Liverpool's 2 goals today. The first one, 2 sort of ricochets that falls to Luiz Diaz, and he bundles the ball over the line, and it's his first goal in his last 10 games for Liverpool. That is the rub of the green that we're suffering from at the moment. But your thoughts on that sort of opening first period of play and Liverpool's goal?
Yeah, I think like you said, I think Vitor summed it up really well in his kind of post-match interview in terms of we weren't aggressive enough, we weren't pushing enough, and there was a kind of a mentality, whether I don't think he installed it, but I think there was this mentality like, let's see the first 15 out, let's see the first 20 out, let's try and be solid, let's try and not give anything away. And I think obviously that, that was his issue, and that was the issue there. And again, it's just like you say, when you're down at the bottom, the little mistakes you get punished for, and that's certainly how it felt for me. And you could just see it again. You got kind of Sarah gesticulating and stuff like that. Ali would have probably seen that better being there in person rather than on the TV, where you don't get to see all of that. But I think for me, it was certainly. Again, it was kind of that passive thing. Not as passive as we have been, certainly not as we were under O'Neill, but you could see when you look at the second half, it kind of really emphasised the fact that we kind of held off and we were kind of more containment rather than actually looking to put press onto them and looking to kind of get at them. Just
a quick sort of tangent where I'll go here, Greg. Based on sort of the recent games, Villa at home, sort of Blackburn away and today against Liverpool, do you think we've missed Strand Larson being in that number 9 position? Because I don't know where he fits back into this squad, because we seem to be a lot more fluid going forward than I've sort of seen with Strand Larson leading the line.
It's an interesting question. I think
Does he come straight back in for you next week? Because the rumours he's back in training, and Pereira said on Friday there's hopes that he'll feature against Bournemouth. But for me, I even when he is fully fit, I don't see him coming straight back in.
It's an interesting one. I think the Blackburn game was a bit of a with the state of the pitch and everything, and that I've put that to one side. I think my thought process was, and I mentioned this in the chat earlier about Munetsi, and yes, he brings a lot of energy and dynamism, but he misses. I think Strand Larson, he may not guarantee to score, but I think if he goes through instead of Munetsi, I think he's got a greater chance of scoring. If you look at some of the goals this season where he's gone through, generally he's kind of hit the target. Yes, his hold-up play for the size of player he is, I don't think he's up to scratch. He should be able to hold the size that he is as a striker. He should be doing a lot better winning balls and holding on to the ball a lot better. Munetsi offers a different option because he's running from deep, which is obviously harder to track. But I mean, I wouldn't, if he's been out for a while, I wouldn't put him straight in unless he's flying in training. So I'd kind of introduce him back in. But I do think he's a better finisher. And I think that's a challenge that we've also got at the moment. We've got to be more ruthless in front of goal with our chances, because we aren't creating as many chances as maybe a team at the top is, albeit today was slightly different. So I think you do need to have someone who can finish. We saw what obviously Cunha did, and we'll obviously come on to that in a bit. But I do feel he's probably a better finisher. He's one of the better finishers. Certainly when I watch them warm up, his finishing's pretty decent actually compared to some of them. Special mention for Andre, who is awful in his shooting warm-ups, by the way, guys. As many in the South Bank will attest when they've had to catch his shots. So he's a decent finisher with both feet. But I think for me, his hold-up play lets him down. And so I would be more inclined to put him in, but not necessarily straight away, given the fact he's been out for a while.
You've mentioned it there, obviously the chance that Munetsi had in the second half. We'll talk about the game, try and be in a bit more chronological order. But this isn't something that I've been doing up until today, but I've decided until Marshall Munetsi scores for Wolves, I'm growing my beard out. I'm hoping it becomes before the end of the season. Otherwise, I might have to start combing it over. My beard gets that long, but
you'll be moonlighting as Santa before you know it, mate. Next Christmas.
Well, I'm usually moonlighting as one of his dwarves at Christmas anyway. So it's about time I had a promotion. Ali, your sort of thoughts within the stadium today on that sort of first half, because for me, I keep going back to that penalty we should have had at Old Trafford when Onana absolutely poleaxes Kalajdzic, and today Simon Hooper yet again, whether it's corruption, unconscious bias, conscious bias, whatever you want to call it, some of the decisions that he allowed to go, not go, bookings that he shelled out for against Wolves players, not enough against Liverpool players. How frustrated did that refereeing performance in the first half stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was infuriating. I actually thought the first sort of 10 minutes or so, we didn't start that badly. We started okay, had a bit more on the ball than I probably expected. And then the goal was just so sloppy. The first goal Liverpool scored was, I think Sarabia actually gave it away, didn't he? He was trying to play Semedo in. For some reason was being ridiculously too cute with it, and it was a really easy pass, and he tried to play it too far ahead of him. Liverpool win the ball, and we get punished, and it kind of felt like Wolves of all season, that we've played okay, and then just a moment of really sloppy play, and we're hit. Liverpool go and score. It's as you say, Dan. Things are going your way. That those bounces and ricochets in your box, they don't fall to Diaz, or he doesn't just get there in front of Sarr and it doesn't go in. So it was a really scrappy goal. But the sense in the crowd, I sense, was there was quite a lot of nerves on Liverpool's part. It wasn't sort of, Liverpool have gone 1-0 up and then 2-0 up, and everyone in the crowd's confident that this is only going one way. It did feel like it was fairly flat. And I think if Wolves could have hung on even at 1-0 at half time and come out and played like they did in the second half, the nerves in the ground would have gone up and up, and we'd have been really on top. It was just then so frustrating that you've gone one down, we concede another one, and that sort of ties in with the refereeing, that the second goal, you just think that if that's up the other end, then in that Guedes on Canate or Van Dijk, then without doubt that will get pulled up as a foul. It wouldn't have even gone to VAR. It wouldn't have had the chance, because Hooper would have whistled and said he's pushed him in the back. That's a foul. We're coming back for it. So when it kind of went through, and then I think Sarr's challenge on Diaz, I don't think we can have too many complaints about that. All Diaz is trying to do is just nick to the ball first, and then he's going to take the contact. But that decision isn't given up at the other end. If that's a Wolves player, if that's Guedes pushing one of the two Liverpool centre backs in the back, that's going to be given as a foul. And that's sort of set the tone then, because in that half, I said every time Wolves sort of looked like they were breaking, Liverpool were doing those very clever sort of tactical fouls. And rather than booking the Liverpool player for giving the foul, he booked Doherty at first and then Agbadou because of them remonstrating with him. And you just thought, this is not a good. This isn't really going the way we want it to. And then it just became a bit of a farce, I thought, towards the end, because I thought there were possibly times where even Aïnouri could have got a booking, but he just couldn't do it because he set such a ridiculous tone in the first half. So it was incredibly frustrating, because you thought that second goal really made a big difference. If we'd have gone in at 1 and we came out 1-0 and we put the pressure on, I think the nerves would have gone really tense in Anfield, and I think we'd had a really good chance then of getting at least a point. I think coming back from 2 was always going to be a real challenge.
It was, yeah. Just going back to sort of Simon Hooper and the yellow cards that he shelled out. I think the first one came to Matt Doherty after he'd had 2 different spells in the space of a short amount of minutes. I think it was McAllister first, and then Ryan Gravenberch, who both cynically stopped a Wolves breakaway. And based on the tips that I placed on our previous show on Friday, which was Cunha 2 shots on target and Gravenberch to be booked, when Gravenberch didn't get that booking in the first half, I thought it's going to be literally one of them days where I've tipped people. That's why I'm a crap gambler, because these things just don't come in even when the sound bankers. But Doherty, I was seething as much as Doherty, but I don't know what Doherty said to get the booking, but it just seemed like Simon Hooper just wanted to get the booking out. And I think the basic mistake that Agbadou made was actually like raising his hand for the yellow card gesture, and that is just one of the most stupidest rules in the law book, that you can get booked for asking for a yellow card when it deserves a yellow card. But that's just the law book all over, isn't it? When sort of Salah stepped up for the penalty, I know I got one of my close friends who's got Mohamed Salah triple captain in his FPL team, and I'm disgusted that I'm calling him a mate this week, because how you could triple captain Mo Salah against the team that you support is very unsavoury in my books. But going into that sort of half-time 2-0 down, it did look like a massive mountain to climb. But how did you sort of overall perceive that first half, Tom? Because the scoreline was a bit flattering, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Vitor was he's probably erring on the side of harshness, I think, in his summary. I think he said that we're pretty awful in the first half. I wouldn't have said we were awful. I think we weren't great, and definitely not good enough to cope with the Liverpool side who were running away with the league. You look at it though. I don't think there was too much in it. I think the first goal is just like an absolute. It's just like about 3 or 4 little errors, which obviously then you just can't cope with. I think Doc tries to gamble and get the ball. I think Andre slides in and misses, and then we're well out of shape. And then Totti sort of flings a foot. It's hard to be critical of Totti with that one because it's come at him fast. And then, I don't know what Sar's doing. I wouldn't really blame him for the goal as such, but yeah, it wasn't the best sort of attempt at trying to get the ball. But I think towards the end of the half, we did throw a few men forward because I remember a couple of counter-attacks Liverpool had and I was worried actually. So we got a little bit braver as the half went on, but I suppose we had to be because, we were 2-0 down at that point. I think we were okay until we got sort of in the final third, and then we looked a bit clueless, and that was because two of the three players, well, you could argue that all three players that were up front for us weren't having a great day. So something had to change, and obviously that was almost like enforced based on their performances.
Yeah, Vita mentioned it in his post-match that he was dissatisfied with the way that we gave Liverpool a bit too much time on the ball, and our pressing wasn't as assured as it has been in recent games. But a lot of people are commenting on it in the YouTube comments section, and thanks to everyone who is joining us. Ibrahim Konate picks up a booking in the first half for a cynical foul, which then stops another Wolves counter-attack. Kicks the ball away in the same period, gets one booking, and then moments later, absolutely poleaxes Matheus Cunha after Matheus Cunha heads the ball on. Your thoughts on that situation, Greg? Because I think I was misunderstood within our WhatsApp group earlier. I said I don't want to see players sent off for that sort of thing, but I was talking from a general scheme within football that you don't want to see teams, uneven teams, because of a challenge like that. But for me, if Simon Hooper hasn't booked him already, that's a blatant yellow card.
It's a consistency thing, isn't it? That's the problem that we have as fans at the moment. And this is what we're talking about. And I know I can see a lot in the chat around, cheating and all this kind of stuff. As football fans, if you believe that, everything is on a fair playing field and you've got beaten by a better team, then generally you'll accept that. I think for me, the problem is now is that there is massive inconsistencies. And listen, this has been going on for years. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't a, last 2-3 seasons type thing, even with VAR. This has been going on for a long time. We all know, those of us old enough remember Fergie time, remember the decisions in terms of, some of the decisions. We know that Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, these teams will get the home decisions that we won't get. And, it's already been said, if the boot had been on the other foot, would they probably sent him off? Yeah, they probably would have done. And that's what frustrates, I think. You're right. When I saw your chat down, I got what you meant, is that as a general principle, you don't want to have people getting second bookings for that. But the problem that there is that it does happen. It just doesn't happen consistently. And it also does. And I think this is what O'Neill was talking about in terms of this unconscious bias. They turn up at Anfield, they have the song, and then they're there and they're on the TV. And I think that, I don't think they are maliciously doing it. Otherwise, we've got a real problem. But it is that kind of thing where you want to have at least a fair crack of the whip, a fair playing ground. And it doesn't feel like that is the case. We've had some shockers. You talked about the one with Klijic, and there's several others in that dossier from last season. And I think that's what frustrates you as fans, is that, even that, what was the one with surrounding of players? Look at Arsenal the other week, and you look at Lamina that got sent off, and it was like, oh no, we're all cracking down, we're going to be consistent, and then Arsenal have got 9 or 10 players around, and nothing happens. So I think that's the problem here, and I think that's what frustrates you as fans, is that you feel that if the boot was on the other foot, we would have had a player sent off.
And that's the two big moments from that first half, isn't it, today? That Konate should be picking up a second yellow card. Because for me, it's a really heavy challenge after Cunha's headed it away. Yeah. He's not in control. He's intentionally gone out of his way to land one on Cunha for me. Yeah. And then the moment that Ali talked about, just with the build-up for Liverpool's penalty, there's a clear shove on Agbadou from Luiz Diaz. And if that's, I think someone said it in a different WhatsApp group to me today with Virgil van Dijk, is that with him being probably one of the best centre-backs in Premier League history, he does get privileges. Mm-hmm. And I think if that situation lands on Van Dijk today from a Guedes or a Cunha, and we go and get a penalty from it, Like Ali said, I don't think it even goes to VAR. I think the referee blows up instantly, Greg.
But you have it all in the media as well. You've got people like Carragher. You've got people like Carragher commenting on the game, getting involved in the game. They've got the bias there. It's all, everything is, what we've got to be clear about is the Premier League is moulded around the big six teams, right? And that's what it's about. And it's not about someone else doing well. It's about that team failing if they lose. Yeah. And you look at all the pundits, you look at all that, it's all set up around that. And it must permeate through, it must come through. And I think that's the issue, is that I think if you watch us against Bournemouth, now I'm tempting fate here, but I would imagine it'll be a much even refereeing performance. That's my prediction.
That's
I
what
could be
people
wrong.
saying in the comments.
I could probably jinx it now, and VAR could have a shocker and all sorts. But I tend to find that when we're playing the kind of the non-big six teams, you tend to find a more consistent, not always, but I tend to find a more consistent refereeing performance. And yet when we go to Anfield, look at the cup match. I was there for that. The offside goal, yeah, that wasn't offside. Oh, isn't that a shock? And it's those kind of things that just create this. And they shouldn't be surprised that Wolves fans are unhappy after that, because it is so inconsistent. And yet VAR was supposed to address a lot of this, and it doesn't. It really doesn't.
I still don't know where you go with refereeing without some level of bias or corruption being thrown at it, because it's so easy. I think we'd probably all fall to the sort of strain of being a referee at Anfield or Old Trafford, when there was one moment in the second half today when Mohamed Salah's running towards the touchline. I think Ait-Nouri may have just hustled and bustled him out for a throw-in, but all the one stand went up, gave it a massive roar, and the referee's given a foul straight away. There was literally nothing in it. I think when you're being led by that sort of volume, whether it's in person or online, and Michael Oliver found it the other week after the Arsenal decision, when you've got thousands upon thousands of people on social media, even some to the extent of him finding out your home address and him getting letter after letter of death threats saying, we're going to kill you because you made this wrong decision against our team, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool. It will have a mental impact on you, but there has to be a way around this. And that's another thing that's sort of great to me, Greg, is the fact that on these Super Sundays, Sky, TNT, when you've got your Gary Neville's commentating on Man United, Jamie Carragher on Liverpool, whoever it is for Alan Smith for Arsenal or whatever, there will always be some form of biased narrative by that commentator, because it's just the way they have to keep their sort of ambassadorial role within a degree. They can't be seen to be going against their club.
But then Sky shouldn't have him on the commentary in the nicest possible way. They should have. Carragher shouldn't be on the Liverpool games. If he's there to be a football pundit and to provide insight, right, then that's what he should do. Otherwise, they should bring back that fan zone. I don't know if you remember that, where they used to get two season ticket holders and they used to sit and give each other. Then go and do that instead. The idea of to be a co-commentator on that is to provide insight, to spot things and give us that we may not have seen as ordinary fans, give us that insight alongside the standard commentator. So the commentary's there to give you that insight. It's not to listen to Jamie Carragher say about how great Liverpool are, the best team. It's not about that. And the same with and when they go back to the studio, that's what it's about. It's about giving you that insight as a fan that you've not identified and giving you some kind of steer. It's not about the rah rah rah, look at us, and that has to stop. It has to be based on that, and that's what it always used to be. But we've kind of let it slip in, and again today it will all be about Liverpool went up to scratch, they played extra game, blah blah. And that it won't be Wolves played well second half, pressed and that never happens, by the way. That and I don't see that changing, to be honest, Dan. I think we'll always be that big team failed as opposed to that smaller team played well. And I think that's the reality, unfortunately.
That was the build-up again to the match, though, wasn't it? Today it was all about Liverpool and the fact they'd lost to Plymouth and then threw away 2 points at Everton in the week, and we barely managed to get the team lineup out of Sky today. But Ali, obviously being there in person today, the first half when Liverpool got their first penalty compared to Diogo Jota's penalty decision in the second, I want to have a look back at Luiz Diaz's penalty, because I feel that Luiz Diaz has done something similar to what Diogo Jota done today. I think Jose saw there's only impact once Luiz Diaz initiates it in the first half, whereas in real time, Agbadu on Jota looked a stonewall penalty in real time. But you look at the replay, and we tweeted earlier that Diogo Jota, we're not just angry, we're disappointed because it's so poor. And WhatsApp group that I'm in with the Liverpool fan in there is just like, this is why I hate Diogo Jota, because he'd rather go down than try and get a shot away. It's just like, what has he become as a footballer, Ali, where he's trying to steal penalties against his club that made him have the career that he's got today?
Yeah. I mean, I thought in real time that Jota one was a penalty, and you didn't see, it was hard really, I suppose, because Agbadu went down injured, so the players sort of swamped around him to see if he was all right. But I was really surprised when it went to VAR, even though it was down our end. I was quite surprised and sort of, okay, I'm not sure what this is for. Is it for offside? Is it actually a foul? So as you say, I actually thought in real time Jota's looked like more of a penalty. Just a penalty, whether it's more of a penalty than the Diaz one. The Diaz one was more up the other end. I've only seen a couple of clips of it, and it's just one of those, isn't it, where all the attacker's doing is just trying to get their toe on the ball before the goalie does, and then just making sure they run into the goalie. No chance in a million years he can get to the ball. It's just, I'm going to get to the ball, make sure there's contact, and I'll get a penalty for this. I think they do tend to be given now, probably wrongly. A lot of people don't want them to be given as penalties, but they do tend to be given. The Jota one, I was more just relieved at the time, but you did feel a degree of one of your ex-players who in the week we've been talking about, well, would we take him back? Would you, if we let Cunha go, would you take Jota back? Slot's apparently not very happy with him because he's injured a lot of the time. And then when that happens in front of the Wolves end, it was sort of like, well, this can only happen to us. Just going back on the refereeing point, and it was only about 2 minutes before I came on the show, I'd seen that Hooper was the same referee. I was at Old Trafford when Kalajic got cleaned out, and it's the same referee. And you think, what are the odds of that? I just think it's impossible when in their position, refereeing against the Liverpool or Man United in that atmosphere. If they make a decision like giving Wolves a last-minute penalty at Old Trafford, if he had sent off Canate today, and in both occasions he should have made those decisions, it's the amount of press and the coverage that's going to create. We sent a Liverpool player off at just before half time. If we got back into it and that cost Liverpool the title, that's going to be, he's going to be for the next 2 or 3 days. BBC Sport, top of the thing is going to be Slot talking about the referee. It's going to be like what happened with Oliver the other week. Death threats. His dress getting leaked. It's going to be all of that. So there's no way that even whether it's conscious or subconsciously, that doesn't play a part, and he thinks, well, that is a second booking, I should give that, but I'm not going to do it. And in the same way with sort of the penalties and things that happen, when you're playing against Liverpool, playing against Man United, any of these big teams, especially away from home, you're going to be up against it because they're very good. And so you need, the fact that you're playing a team that good, you're going to need some rub of the green. And you're also, it's so much more difficult if you know that every 50-50, not even 50-50 decisions, everything 60-40 will go against you. It makes it so difficult. So whenever someone goes down
60-40 though, is it?
It's not 7-30.
It's not even that, is it?
Ridiculous decisions that are just will not go in your favour, and so it makes an uphill battle just almost impossible. And that's how it started to feel in the second. That's how I started to feel anyway. That when it was just sort of, this is just going to be impossible. I saw Pricey at half time. We were saying the same thing, that it's impossible when you're playing against a very good team. Best team in the league, miles ahead in the league, and we're actually not playing that badly. Like Tom said, I didn't think we were that bad first half. I'm glad if Vitor's holding them to that higher standard, because I think we were that bad first half. But so it just felt like this is going to be impossible when when we're playing a very good team and a referee who isn't going to give us anything. But yeah, going back, sorry, to your original point. Yeah, Jota's. I mean, it is. I don't know what it does in terms of him. I'm sure he'll never come back. If his next move isn't going to be to Wolves, it's going to be abroad somewhere or whatever. I can't see him coming back for if he ever did. But yeah, it was incredibly disappointing. And I actually kind of made even worse by the fact that Agbadu then got injured. I think actually on the back of it, I was actually more concerned that, okay, this game's probably gone, whether the penalty's given or not, but Agbadu's hobbling off. This doesn't look good. So that was actually probably my feeling was more that Agbadu being injured was in the long term going to cause us more pain.
Yeah, that was a frustrating moment, wasn't it? And could be very detrimental to our season if it is a serious injury. Tom, Emmanuel Agbadu was down for quite a bit after that penalty scenario with Jota. Vita Pereira said his post-match press conference that they didn't know to what severity the injury is at the moment, but it's I believe it's muscular from what was said in the post-match, where it could be a hamstring tear, could be a numerous amount of things. I mean, he was able to walk off, but he didn't look overly comfortable within the stadium, did he, Ali, as he did come off?
No, he limped off, and then I think I saw a clip of him at the end. He did come back over to the fans, and he was pointing to his hamstring, so it didn't look like it was sort of knee based, or looked like it was a hamstring type injury. And Pereira's come out, hasn't he, and said he'd had some discomfort but hadn't told him, and courageously had gone out, but we wish he hadn't. So yeah, he was able to take himself off the pitch, but he didn't look particularly comfortable. And if it is a hamstring injury, then experience tells us it's going to be at least a couple of weeks, isn't it, before he plays again. I think that was very worrying, because I think actually him and Totti and Doherty actually were playing very well and looked like they'd formed a nice partnership there.
Sorry, Tom. I meant to bring you in for your actual thoughts on that there, because if we do lose Agbadu, that's a really big blow for us, isn't it? Because like Ali's mentioned there, I think that's sort of back for him. I know we conceded 2 again today, and since Totti's returned, it was 4 wins and 4 clean sheets, but we have looked a lot more sturdier under Vita Pereira, and losing Agbadu would be a massive problem, wouldn't it?
Oh, massive! Yeah, he's been a real shining light. I think in the short time he's been with us, he looks like a real sort of rock already. Obviously, Totti's made a big difference as well. I don't think that should be understated. I think he's made a massive difference, and I think he had another really good game again today. I think it's nice to have a centre half that drives us up the pitch a little bit. You don't get that with the likes of sort of Dawson and Santi and people like that. So that is a plus. So I think that does make a difference. But yeah, Agba's looked really assured, and he looks like he's already become a bit of a leader as well. He doesn't seem scared to bark a few orders out, and if I'm next to him, I'm not going to disagree with anything he says. So I suppose we've got 2 weeks, is it? 2.5 weeks till the next game. I still think I'd be probably surprised by how it looked. I had a theory originally. I thought it was like, I could feel a little bit of something. I'm not having a good game. The game might be gone now, so I'm just gonna. I'll come off the pitch. But then when I saw the pictures afterwards, obviously that sort of went by the wayside. So, I mean, I was worried about his knee originally. The way he sort of went in, I thought he might have hyperextended the knee, and obviously then that's a big potential to be a big issue. So, I was slightly happier that it's muscular, but again, these can take time, and we've seen it with other players, haven't we? With Neto and Hwang, who hasn't been the same since his hamstring injury. So cross our fingers and let's hope it's a 2 or 3 weeker rather than a 5 to 6 one.
That's all we can do. Greg, Tom just mentioned there about you mentioned Craig Dawson. How do you feel Pereira's handled the whole Craig Dawson situation?
It feels like we're missing something. I think to me it feels like, I mean, we know that these last couple of performances weren't particularly great. They weren't exactly inspiring, with penalties and own goals and stuff. It does feel like either, we don't see the data in the training. There's either a conversation that's been had contractually that has fallen apart, or he isn't, just Father Time has caught up, and that he's just miles off the pace, and that having the injuries has just impacted him to the point where he's not at the standard that we need, or certainly isn't working in the type of way needed by Pereira going forward. So I think it's hard to say. I mean, what it does obviously do is open the door for Giga. I hope I said that correctly. That means that he's going to potentially come in a bit sooner than maybe we thought, but he's been on the bench, he's been around, so it's going to be a chance for him to, I think he would be the likely candidate to step in.
He's played Champions League. He's been
playing.
You've got to throw him in there and out for the best, haven't you?
Exactly. So it's the way to do it. So I think Dawson's a bit of a weird one. I think it may be the latter, that I think his legs have just gone now, guys, and he's just, whilst he was a good servant, he's a good player, I think it's just caught up, and I think that's the issue now. I just don't think he has the pace to cover himself. You know, he can win headers, but I think in the Premier League he's going to get caught out, and I think that's the reality. I think for Dawson.
Yeah, it's a shame, hasn't it? Because he has been a good servant for us. It makes you wonder what has gone on at the training ground. And obviously, he has picked up a few injuries in the last sort of 12 months. One of the last sort of key moments that I can remember Dawson, bar the own goals and the penalties against Bournemouth, was after the Ipswich game. He was the one who was throwing Ryan Aït-Nouri down the tunnel. And you don't know how that's unfolded once they're all in the dressing room, whether Craig Dawson has provided a few home truths to the lads, how the lads have reacted to him throwing Ryan Aït-Nouri about being a younger player to Craig Dawson. But he will be a miss, and when you need a bit of an experienced head in certain moments, especially now if Agbadou is injured, you're relying on Nasser to come in. Moipiu doesn't look like he's going to be given a chance anytime soon. So basically, your back three pretty much picks itself, isn't it? With Totti, Breno, and Doherty. If Nasser doesn't come in straight in, but I thought defensively again we were really good today, considering the first half of the season where we were Sunday League at best. And this was, I think someone said a stat today that this is the first time since I think 2003 when Opta-Stats came in that Liverpool didn't have a shot in the second half, which says a lot for how well we defended today. Obviously, Liverpool, there may have been sort of tiredness after their game against Everton in the week. The fact that they lost to Plymouth and then threw the 2 points away against Everton, they might have just been a bit nervous and was happy with the 2-goal balance. But I thought we were really good. I don't really remember Jose Sarr really having like a big save in the first half, Ali, from recollection. There's quite a few efforts that Liverpool hit high and wide, but there weren't really any notable saves that Jose Sarr had to make.
No, I can't recall any. As you said, when I would coming out the ground, and obviously I'm then coming into a car with 2 Liverpool fans in it, and that was my view of saying, I think we've actually, second half we've outplayed you there. Like I couldn't think of Liverpool ever threatening Wolves' goal other than the penalty that was then overturned. And as you say, in the first half, I don't recall Sarr actually making any saves. If he did, if they were at our end or having shots, they were blazed over the bar. And they've only had, I'm just looking here, they've had 3 on target for the whole game, and 2 of them have gone in. So I can't remember what the other one was, but it obviously wasn't that memorable. So yeah, I said before, I didn't think actually first half we were too bad. 2 sloppy mistakes, 2 goals. They should have been down to 10 men. One of those goals perhaps shouldn't have counted. I thought we were hard done by, really. And then second half we played. Said I couldn't really have any complaints, but we played very well. Certainly, by not getting the second and not getting something out of it wasn't through lack of effort. Everyone was trying. I think we had sort of 5 centre midfielders on at one point. It was seen when he made the change with Munetsi up front and Doyle came on, Bellegarde was on, Andre was still on. It was kind of, this is a lot of central players, but it kind of worked, and we were dominating the ball. And Cunha scored a really good goal, and it felt like if anything was going to happen, Wolves were going to get something out of this. And I said the nerves in the crowd, you could feel it, and you could hear the relief around Anfield. I think they win a goal kick or clear the ball. You could hear the relief, you could sense it, and you felt we've really got them on the ropes here. Just didn't quite have enough to put away another chance and actually get something out of it. But as you say, Dan, I couldn't come away from the second half thinking, well, obviously Sarr didn't have anything to do because they didn't have any shots. Having seen that stat, but I thought you couldn't really fault the players for what they put in the second half. Yeah,
I agree. There were quite a few people in our replies on social media earlier, the usual negative Neils or whatever you want to call them. I had a few people calling the performance dire and we lacked edge and were toothless. But I see you shaking your head there, Greg. I thought we gave a really good account of ourselves. Like Ali mentioned, you could feel and hear the nerves within Anfield today as the game sort of progressed, and the fact that they managed to drop 2 points late against Everton. As Ali mentioned, every time they had a brief bit of respite, the sigh of relief was clear. But just talk about sort of Matheus Cunha's performance today for a minute for me, Greg, because I thought he was, yet again, he's so good in everything that he does. If he could have some sort of that extra 10% to just run a bit more and just dominate games a bit more, look, honestly, like I said before the game, they could easily play for one of the top 5 teams in the Premier League. But if he had that little bit extra to go, that extra yard to do a bit more of the hard running, he'd probably be one of the players to be in the top 5 teams in the world, not just the Premier League.
Yeah, I think you summed that up really well. To be fair, I think that's the difference, isn't it? Listen, he scores a goal that I don't think anyone else in our team is. Attack. He beats players. He's able to look for the switch and that. And I thought he played well. The
goal it's a really good goal, ain't he?
I think he's a difference maker. He's an entertainer. He's one that's able to drive the fans, get the fans going, and today was a perfect example of a striker, someone who can score goals. And I thought he played really well.
That moment you just saw on the screen there, Greg. I think we replied to the Red Men TV on social media after the game because they put out a poll asking for their followers vote for man of the match, and one of the 4 options was Gerald Kwanzaa. And I said, come on, lad, let's just be honest. Gerald Kwanzaa's your man of the match purely based on that block at the end because that was the moment, wasn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. I think, again, Liverpool know they were in a game. And I think, Ali, you will have been able to describe that really well in terms of you could see there was an apprehension and nervousness. And you see it because they're at the end, I think Bradley gets a foul or down in the corner or something and they're all high-fiving each other out of relief. And I think that's, you don't do that. You're not high-fiving each other if you're comfortable in the game, if you're ahead, and it's easy. I think that's the reality. And there was that nervousness, and maybe it was influenced by Everton's late equaliser in the week, maybe. But second half, to anyone who said that we played poorly second half, is no chance. If we'd have put in that second half performance against most of the teams this season, we wouldn't be where we are. It's as simple as that. We play with an intensity, we play with a ferocity that we need and that we like to see as Wolves fans. And we put that performance in against most of the teams, and then you come out of the game with something. And to be fair, we probably should have done on the balance. And, with the stats that you guys have kind of reeled off we're sitting here now feeling that we should have got at least a point out of the game, and that's the reality. We've now got to maintain that type of performance and the Villa performance through the rest of the season, and that will see us safe. And Cunha will be a big part of that, and we all know that. That's why we were so desperate that he didn't leave in January, because he will be the difference maker. He will be the person that brings us through to the end of the season.
That's a comment that I keep saying. I said it on BBC WM the other day. It all falls down to me between now and the end of the season. Who has the most goal involvements out of Matheus Cunha and Liam Delap? Liam Delap scored again yesterday for Ipswich away at Villa. They managed to somehow take a point away from Villa, but that's just Villa all over. Even when you want them to do us a favour, they can't even do that fucking right. Useless bastards. Are you on the same wavelength as Greg, Tom, with Cunha's performance today and what it's going to take for us to avoid relegation?
Yeah, I thought he was okay before the goal. I think he was a little bit lax, maybe a little bit showboaty. I know that is sort of, what he's about sometimes, but I think he made a couple of poor passes and a couple of poor choices. Maybe go for the Hollywood pass a bit too frequently. But I think after the goal, obviously the goal is just brilliant. Again, and Greg summed up perfectly. There's no one else in our team that's doing anything close to that. The way he rolled the man, he sold Gravenberch like a treat, and not many people have done that this season. But then after that, I think he had his pecker up then, and he was even he was running back, which was nice to see. He's pivotal. We all know it, and we've got to enjoy him while we've got him, because let's face it, he's not going to be here next season. But yeah, I think with the quality he's got, I think you look at Cunha, you look at João Gomez, and you look at Agbadou, and you've got to hope that that spine of the team there it's got its head and shoulders, in my opinion, above anything Leicester and Ipswich have got. So if you keep them, the players around them pull their weight, I think I'm a little bit worried about about the people in the wide areas. I think we've got a lot of players out of form. We've got Hwang, who's in dreadful form and injured. Sarabia, who we've already touched on. We're not going to go over that again. Bellegarde, who doesn't, we've sort of proven doesn't really play there anymore. Forbes, who's completely out of the picture. So if you could argue you could put Guedes back out there when Larsson's fit. That's why I think, in my opinion, actually going back on the Larsson point, I think he probably does come back in and almost has to come back in. To give us a bit more of a focal point. I agree with the fluidity point that you made, but when Guedes has an off game, like he got bullied today, he got completely bullied by Van Dijk and Konate. I don't think they'll have a sort of easier 45 minutes than they did against the centre forward as they did today. So Larsson does offer you that a little bit more. So I think we maybe left ourselves a little bit light there in January. However, Munetzi's, I think he's going to be quite an interesting character. I think he gets himself in some fantastic positions. I think technically, I'm not sold on him. I think it's an interesting one with Munetzi because you can always make, on the Sarabia point, he's everything Sarabia isn't. He's got the physicality. He's got the up and down. He can make a tackle. He's a bit of a brute. He can challenge, but I think he lacks technically. Whereas Sarabia's got all the other. But I know which one's going to be more of a success in the Premier League, and that'll be Munetsi. But I think he'll get in the right positions, but he's going to miss a few chances this season, I think. But it throws a whole new dynamic because it looks like he can sort of play up there if we need to. So that'll be an interesting one to see how he's going to slot in unless he goes to 3 midfield. We'll see. But yeah, I think we've got enough about us to stay up. And like Greg says, if we play anything like we did in that second half, we'll be absolutely fine.
He's on a tightrope. He's in the alley, Munetsi, on where he falls in the final third box, on whether it's another Leander Dendoncker or he's got that dangerous Dave Edwards clinical finishing, isn't it? He's had three big chances now in 2 games, 4 if you count the set piece that fell to him on the edge of the box against Blackburn, and he's only managed to get one of them on target. And he didn't look comfortable when he went through 1-on-1. I think he took maybe half a second too long to get his shot away on his weaker foot as well. But like Tom mentioned, he's a nice alternative in like a sort of a false 9 role.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I was quite surprised when he came on. I mean, he played that sort of the position he played away at Blackburn. This kind of he's starting up the middle, and I thought that was sort of. I wasn't sure at Blackburn if that was deliberate or he just decided it was his day. He wanted to make an impression. We were 2-0 up, and he's just going to go. Go for it. Today was clearly he was instructed that's he's playing sort of as a 9. As you say, I mean, his movement and he gets himself into really good positions as a natural forward would, and for that chance he got himself in between the centre halves. It was actually quite a nice flick. I saw in the replay from Bellegarde to actually sort of divert it into his path. Exactly as you said though, Dan, he just took that half a second too long, and by the time he then hit it, it's on his wrong foot, and Alisson's got closer to him to cut it down or to cut it off. So, yeah, he reminds me of Dendoncker in the sense that he's creating himself a lot of chances or getting a lot of chances, but as of yet hasn't taken them and having that frustration of he could just put them away. But then I guess Dendoncker would have been playing for us if he could. But no, he's clearly. I mean, he's exactly what Pereira said he wanted. He is totally different to anything else we've had and anything we've had for a long time. And I think he is going to be really effective. I think going back to, I think Greg made the point that's, I think, the difference where if Larsson was starting today and he goes through there, or even Hwang possibly, or even Guedes, any of those guys who were actually natural forwards, I think whether they score or not, I mean, Guedes has been missing those, hasn't he, recent weeks, so maybe not him, but I think Larsson, you'd have been more confident that he's going to put that away. I think Munetsi did look when he sort of, he's got the cop in front of him, he's 1-on-1. He didn't look, you weren't going, oh, this is in. You were thinking, oh, if this goes in, this will be a miracle. It felt more like it was going to hit Alisson and hit him back in the face and go back in rather than he actually deliberately puts it in the bottom corner. But he's clearly going to be a fan favourite. I thought he was incredibly effective in doing a job that probably he's never done before and never had any sights of being a striker. And if it wasn't for Kwanzaa's tackle in the last minute, he probably would have had an equaliser as well. And again, he's in the position. He's where he should be.
What's your feelings on Munetsi at the moment, Greg, based on the sort of what he had just over an hour's worth in a Wolves shirt?
Yeah, I do wonder, going back to Ali's point, I do wonder if he scores against Blackburn last week, does that give him the confidence? Do you know what I mean? And this is the problem is it's still very early, so we're doing a lot of ifs, aren't we? We're saying if this happens, if this. What we can say is, like Ali's just quite rightly called out, he's different to the other midfielders we've got. He's got an energy and he's got a presence about him, and that's great. It's just, and that will buy him time in a weird way. With us as a fan base, that's going to buy him plenty of time because you can see the effort, you can see the fact he's getting into position for chances and stuff. But ultimately, we'll still need him to actually score sooner rather than later. And I think he does. I think it's one of them. I think if he can get a goal, then I think it'll be all of a sudden he'll start to lift and you'll see that through in his performance. That's my prediction anyway. But it's just going to be getting that goal, whether that comes off his knee, his arse, wherever it comes in. I think he needs that. I think he's one of them. He'll need a goal and then it'll give him the boost that he needs and move forward. I'd like to see Rodrigo Gomez on a slightly separate tangent. I'd like to see him play further forward. I don't know if that'll happen. But again, he's another one that's got the energy that will drive. One of the things that infuriated me with Ryan Aït-Nouri today was he does this thing where he goes so far and then he'll always cut back on himself and then play it back. I've not seen him. I can't remember the last time when he's actually done someone down the wing. He seems to drag in and he'll do a drag back or do something else or cut inside. And we miss that width. And I think for me, that's where, again, for Munetsi, if he's driving forward, you want to try and commit the players from the width and give him the space to come through the middle if he's coming through late. So for me, it's like, can we commit on the wing? Can we actually get players attacking on the wing? I'm talking very Forest-esque here with pacey wingers and someone with a physical presence in the middle. But I think that would actually suit us at the moment. And I think, so for me, I think Munetsi there's there. I think there's promise there. But I think he'll desperately need a goal. And having those chances and keep missing is going to kind of start to chip away. So hopefully he can get one and then we can build out from there.
Andy Peace in the comment section, Ryan Aït-Nouri chops more than Bruce Lee. Yeah, literally, like you said, Greg. I think one of the things that goes against him, because he has got the ability and he has got enough pace to be beating fullbacks, and he's usually had a good games against Trent Alexander going forward. And even though Mohamed Salah scored again today, and I think it's something like 5 goals in his like 6 games at Anfield against Wolves now. So he's got, but I've still never saw a game where Mohamed Salah's absolutely rinsed Ryan Aït-Nouri on that side of the pitch, and we just want a bit more from him. Maybe having that Munetsi presence in the box might drive him on to try and beat the fullback a bit more, but I feel that's probably one of the reasons why he doesn't try and commit as much, because we've never really had enough bodies burst into the box since he's been in a Wolves shirt, going back to the times when like Jimenez was leading the line. There was only ever sort of Jimenez who was in the box when he ever did beat the fullback. You'd never have sort of Adama Traore coming in at the back post, or Neves or Martinho making a last ditch run into the box. So something that Wolves need to probably work on a bit more, and be interested to see what Ryan Aït-Nouri, how high his ceiling actually is if he were to join a team who were more on the front foot than what Wolves are during a 90-minute spell. But excuse me, Tom. Who was your man of the match today?
Question. I thought Totti had another great game. I know he's a little bit of a dodgy moment maybe for their first goal, but even then I think it's come at him quite quick. And we all love him, don't we? And he's made a massive difference since he's come back. And as I say, I think his driving runs from the back really, really do make a difference. It just gives us a whole new dynamic, which we sorely miss when he's not playing. So yeah, I think I'll probably give it to Totti. To be fair, I thought he had a really good game. Doc had a good game as well. There, to be fair, I think you could have given it to any of the defence really.
I don't think anyone really had a poor. I mean, yeah, Sarabia did. Let's be real. Sarabia did. I don't think many of them sort of came out with much bad credit today. Even Guedes tried in the first half, but he was always going to come unstuck coming up against Van Dijk and Konate, wasn't he? But I wasn't really overly pleased with Pedro Lima's cameo when he came on. I thought he was a bit naive a couple of times. I think there was one chance where he should have lumped the ball into the box when he had the opportunity. He managed to get the nutmegs, but then was just blocked out. I think when the clock's running out for you and you've got players like Munetsi in the box and all the bodies that we were throwing forward at that time. I think you've just got to try and put it in the mixer and hope something ricochets to one of your players or one of your players beats Van Dijk to an header, which is minimal chance. But Ali, your man of the match today?
Yeah, I've just been looking at the lineup again. I mean, I thought Totti was excellent. I thought Doxy was excellent. I thought both of those two really stood out. I gave it to Totti last week, I think. So I'll change it up and give it to. I'm going to give it to Cunha actually, because I thought Cunha, once he sort of got going, I had a mate who's a Liverpool fan message me in around half time, said how good is Cunha, and then I thought at the end of the game I was like, well, he's that good. I thought he was the best player on the park in the second half. Certainly, I thought when he got the game by the scruff of the neck, I thought he was the best forward on the pitch, and Liverpool have got a decent array of forwards. I thought he was very good. So I'd give it to Cunha for the goal as well. But I thought second half he was top draw.
Maximus Roy, I'm calling you crazy. You think Jose Sarr was our man of the match today? You're crazy. We mentioned a few moments ago, Liverpool didn't even have a shot in the second half, and I don't think he even had like what you class as a non-routine save to make in the first half. So I love Maximus Roy. He's one of our regulars in the comment section. I always appreciate that he makes the time to join our show, and there's so many other content channels out there. But yeah. Press the like button if you don't think you're crazy, Maximus. Greg, your man of the match.
To be honest, I can't really deviate from the others. I think Totti has been a revelation since he's come back. I think he's made such a big difference to the team in terms of balance. We've talked about this, and also the progression. It is, watching him drive forward is great. I think Joe Gomez and Andre actually did well today in the midfield. They I thought they covered the ground well. I think they're starting to adapt. I feel that Andre's now starting to settle in more. I mean, he had a couple of great games when he first came in what was a poor team. But I'm starting to feel that they're starting to gel now and starting to build, and I can see why he goes with those two. I think they're going to be his first pairing going forward. I think they'll be the two go. Unfortunately for Doyle and that, I think that's where he'll be on the bench. So yeah, I think Todd, and again Doherty. I think, like they said, I can't really argue against that. I think those two are the ones that were particularly did well today, and I think deserve that call out. I mean, Cunha's done the moment, but I think for me those two would go above him on that, based on that today.
Yeah, I think based on your guys' opinions today, I think I'm gonna join. I think it was Ali in saying I think Cunha was man of the match. Was it Ali? I can't remember. Ali said Cunha. Yeah. I'm going with Ali's opinion purely for the fact that even though Totti and Doherty and Agbadu all played well, I'm looking at Doherty getting rolled by Jota in the build up for their second, the penalty, and Totti's slight bit of clumsiness, or whatever you want to call it, or unluckiness in the ricochet, which led to Luiz Diaz for the first goal. But I thought defensively, yet again, for a team like Liverpool who've got the capability to knock 6-7 past you on any given day, I thought we were really good defensively. But I thought Cunha, in the majority of that half, and the compilation that we shown a few moments ago, I thought he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile, and he'll have been unlucky not to come away with at least a point like a lot of those Wolves players today. But you look at the results that occurred the rest of the weekend. Arsenal beating Leicester 2-0 at the King Power. Villa being unable to beat Ipswich, who were down to 10 men for a good half of that game. Alex Palmer from the Albion had probably one of the game of his lives. If you saw the one save that he made from Marcus Rashford's cross, which deflected, he managed to get hands on it over the bar. And I mean, you can mention sort of Southampton until they're mathematically down. They're still in the battle, but losing again 3-1 at home to Bournemouth is another blow for them. And then you look at the other teams in and around, just Tottenham and Man United win the 14th to 15th playoff battle today. Tottenham came out 1-0 winners. But if you have a look on the league table for a quick moment, it's down to 4 teams. We're 8 points behind West Ham, who are on 27 points. They've got one better goal difference. We have got West Ham coming up at home, I believe, in the start of April. So hopefully we're in the mix come that time. But the next 5 fixtures, I think, pretty much makes our season. I mentioned it before the Villa game. I thought our season fell down to the Villa home game and the Blackburn away game. We managed to win both those games, and then you look to the league and the FA Cup fixtures. We've got Bournemouth away next Saturday, followed by Fulham at home on the Tuesday, and then Bournemouth away on 1st of March in the FA Cup, followed by Everton at home and Southampton away. It's a huge few games coming up, Ali, but where do you sort of land on the confidence level at the moment on whether we can stay up this season?
I think, as you said, sort of coming out the Villa game, coming out the Blackburn game, came out with some positives, and it feels like today, despite having lost, we should have come out with that. Should have come out with that game with some confidence. I kind of was concerned that after this tough run of games that we had, that we'd be back in the bottom three, and looking up and whether Ipswich or Leicester would have put a couple of wins together and we'd actually be chasing them. So actually, where we stand now, I'm quite pleased that we're still 2 points away from both Ipswich and Leicester. Now we've sort of got our one sort of really tough game coming up away at Bournemouth, and then after that, it kind of eases up a bit. You know, Fulham at home, Everton at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home, Ipswich away. They're all games that we should be picking up points, and we've had this conversation before about how many points we think keeps it up. The more I look at it and think, well, if Ipswich, Leicester have only picked up 17 points from 25 games, I just don't see how they're going to pick up sort of anything like, 15, 20 more points from the remaining games that they've got. And whereas I look at our fixtures there and just think we should, with 3 or 4 wins out of those between now and the end of the season, and at least 2 of them coming from those games, maybe at least a third, then we should have enough. And as Tom mentioned, I think before, the spine of our team should be too good to go down. If those players stay fit, Gomez, Andre, Cunha, if Agbadou's not out for too long, and we should have enough there to stay up. And I just don't think any of those other sort of the other teams in it, Ipswich or Leicester, are going to have enough, if they haven't already, to sort of get on to get ahead of us and to stay there. So I think I'm feeling fairly confident about it. I was hoping we'd be closer to West Ham and we might actually pull away a bit so that we're not looking over our shoulders towards the end of the season. I don't think it's quite going to be as comfortable as I'd like it to be, but I'm sort of on the confidence scale, what sort of 8 or 9 out of 10, I think we'll stay up. So that makes me sound pretty confident. I just don't think Ipswich or Leicester are going to have enough.
Yeah, you look to the fixtures next weekend. Leicester are home to Brentford on Friday night at 8 o'clock. Southampton at home to Brighton, and where's the other one? Ipswich at home to Tottenham. It's another big weekend because it's a chance to hopefully pick up some points away to Bournemouth, but they're absolutely flying. They can go top 4 next weekend if they beat us. You'd suspect, based on recent form, that Liverpool will pick up a result away at Man City next weekend. But the Premier League's a funny old game, is I don't think anyone sort of predicted Man City to slap Newcastle 4-0 yesterday. But another big weekend next weekend, Greg. And I'll ask you a quick question: 3 points in the FA Cup or through to the quarter-final?
I'd take the 3 points. I'd take the 3 points. I'd take the 3 points. I would take the 3 points. At this stage where we are now, I would take the 3 points. Yes, there's the glamour of the cup. Yes, I get all of that, Wembley, and taking my lad to Wembley for the day and all that in the semis. Don't get me wrong, but I think if you look at it right now, I take the 3 points. And the funny thing is, the Bournemouth game was such a freak game at home, with us giving them like penalty after penalty after penalty. I couldn't really. It's hard to judge them because every time we got back into the game, we just gave away another goal or a penalty. It was a really weird game, very bizarre game. So it's hard for me to go against it. But if I had to choose between the 3 points and the quarter final, I'll take the 3 points.
That's where Maximus Wright has just redeemed himself in the comments, saying he wants both 3 points and the winning.
That wasn't an option. That wasn't an option, Dan. You said one or the other.
Yeah.
You didn't say both.
Apologies, Greg. I threw you under the bus there.
No. It's a great question, and I'm going for the 3. I'm going for the 3 points.
Where do you stand on that, Ali?
Yeah, I think if we'd got something out of today, then I probably would have said take the cup because we can always win other games. But and I always have been of the view that I'd rather I'd take winning the FA Cup if it meant we went down because we can always come back up. So, sod it. If that's my view, then take the cup. Take the cup. Stay in the cup, and we've got other games. We'll beat Southampton and some of those other guys. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get something at Bournemouth. It feels a bit like the Fulham away game where we out of nowhere we win 4-1. I don't think it's implausible we get something out of that. But no, short answer. I'll take the cup, and we'll be fine. It'll be fine.
That's it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine, won't we, Tom?
Yeah, mate. I said all season we'll be fine. I think I said to you at the Curry, didn't we, when we were out? I said if we were within striking distance after this run of fixtures, like Ali's just said, then I felt reasonably confident. I mean, I don't trust Spurs at Ipswich. I think Ipswich might win that, so we might find ourselves in the bottom three, but we'll be a point outside, or point from safety. So if you'd said that probably before this run of fixtures and definitely after the Chelsea game, because I think we're in bad shape at that point in time, then I probably would have taken it. So we'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's like you said. If we're out of the relegation zone after the end of next weekend, then I'm confident. Because you look at those 3 Premier League fixtures after Bournemouth, 2 home games against Fulham and Everton, and an away tie to Southampton in the middle of March. I think there's definitely points to be taken there. Leicester at home to Brentford next Friday night is going to be another game that could go either way. I think I'm with you, Tom. I think Ipswich will probably pick up at least a point at home to Tottenham next week. But Ipswich haven't even got a good home record, though, have they? So who knows? Hopefully that win for Tottenham today kicks them on a bit. But I watched the majority of that game. I thought Tottenham and Man United were both really poor today. So be interested to see how that one goes. Just a bit of housekeeping before we end the show. Our friends at the Art of Football released some new garments at their artoffootball.com websites yesterday at 1:00. They've got a few Wolves emblem, Wolverhampton City, Out of Darkness camouflage emblems. They've got a sweatshirt, hoodie, new t-shirt, an Out of Darkness camouflage t-shirt. All really well made garments. We've had a few in the past, like the green hoodie, a few of the t-shirts got the Art of Football scarf. So take a look at their website, art-of-football.com. Thanks for joining myself, Greg, Ali, and Tom on tonight's Fancast episode. We'll be back next Friday for our match preview for the fixture away to Bournemouth. Thanks to everyone that's joined us. Please press the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, up the Wolves.
Thank you.